Good morning, America, and welcome to Monday Morning Gasoline. I'm your host, Mikkel. Thank you for joining me today. If you notice, today is a little bit different. We did not have a guest today. I have no one to catch my fall as we barrel through this next 30 minutes. But today is going to be, like I said, a little different. We're going to cover some tech stories. Then we're going to go to a new segment I call From the Lab, and we're going to cover some books that I've been reading, and then we'll kind of finish off with the state of affairs for Monday Morning Gasoline. We got some new stuff going on. So let's get started. All right, so from the tech news standpoint, we have an ongoing Microsoft Exchange issue going on. A bunch of companies got hacked. Krebs has a good article on it from March 23rd. But slight update on the story, right? We know things happen, but it turns out Microsoft Defender will automatically prevent the Exchange exploits. So good reason to keep, Microsoft Defender on and updated, as well as, your patches set to automated. So next story, chip shortage. Hey, guess what? It's still there. Nothing new here. But it's becoming a problem for consumer goods, automakers. So hopefully the Biden commission that we talked about last time with Michael will, create some guidance for a change. All right, moving on to our next story. And let's talk about ransomware. So Microsoft isn't... Oops, sorry. That is an ad. All right, so Microsoft is not the only one who's having issues right now. Acer apparently got hit with a ransomware attack, but this problem is not just, with Acer. Everyone is getting hit by these ransomware attacks. And the reality is it's really hard to protect a corporate network. You have a lot of employees. Not everyone takes precautions. So, what do you really do? There's really no substitute for backups, for disaster recovery, for creating backups, validating your backups, and game playing as if a scenario had happened. Can you afford to be down for a day? If you cannot, you should have a backup scenario. All right, well, that was excellent. We have one more story. So part of another hack that there's apparently a financial tech company that used an unregistered domain, and the reason why I mentioned it's default institution.com that was not registered. And I've seen this, and I've done this myself as a developer, where I'm going through and trying to create a test application. I'll put in example.com. Well, if you're putting that in for an API, then you're probably going to piss off whoever the owner of that domain is. But in general, it is a very bad idea to test with unregistered domains unless you're testing failure scenarios. But even then, you can't control, if a domain will get registered. So don't do that. All right, well, this took a lot less time than I thought. We were able to cover 4 stories in about 5 minutes. All right, so moving on to this new segment that I'd like to call From the Lab. And I don't have fancy artwork for it yet, but we'll get there. So over the weekend, I set up my Hi-Fi Berry, and really, it was an answer to the question of, hey, I have an extra Raspberry Pi 3. What am I going to do with that Raspberry Pi 3? Well, the answer for me was I bought one of these Hi-Fi Berry Amp 2s and hooked it up to my own network. And so now I have and I gave it a little funny domain, spare.prol.lol. So this is my Hi-Fi Berry. It comes with, there's a Hi-Fi Berry OS. that you can install in order to have it connect up to your network, and it pretty much does everything for you. You just set up the SD card, change the default password, and really you're able to stream from any of these music sources. Now, the one side that I did not realize is that the Raspberry Pi 3B does not have a good audio input, right? It has audio output, and neither does the AMP2. So right now I can't stream a direct analog signal from my TV. So what I had to do was get a crazy Bluetooth transmitter and transmit that into a source that's acceptable for the Hi-Fi Berry AMP2. So there is a solution. So instead of getting this AMP2, I would recommend getting a slightly different setup. This Hi-Fi Berry DAC Plus RC8 will both provide an amplifier and an input, which is super useful. So, but Hi-Fi Berry in general has some really cool parts. Sorry, it's this one. It's Hi-Fi Berry DAC Plus ADC Pro. So for $64, you can have an amplifier and a input processor. Pretty cool. I think I'm going to go for one of these next. I've got all this hooked up to a pair of these guys. Excellent speakers. Only cost about $100, but I have to say the sound quality of these is acceptable. I mean, not just acceptable, it's pretty incredible. Very crisp sound, excellent monitor speakers. All right. So I've also been playing a lot with my home lab. So kind of moving on from my audio trials, which have been, well, it took a little while to get everything set up, and I should have had it with me to show you, but it's right now set up in my living room. But moving on from that, I've been playing a little bit of Valheim, but not as, a normal gamer, of course. Instead, I set this thing up on my local cluster, and for those of you that know me, otherwise why would you be up with me at 6:30 in the morning, right? You'll know that I fancy the DevOps, and I have my own lab that's not publicly accessible. Ignore the domain. But here we have our normal Rancher management cluster. So when I say I wanted to run Valheim, the first thing I went is, okay, well, can I run this in my cluster? And the answer was kind of. So as you can see, I have Valheim and Minecraft both running. Now, the Valheim was a real pain in the butt because my cluster right now, well, before this weekend really, was only Raspberry Pis. I had 4 Raspberry Pis, which are ARM cores, and ARM cores are great from a term of power efficiency, but they're not great in terms of support. And this is one of the major problems I see with ARM as it moves to dominate the market because of its power per watt ratio, right? I think their estimates of it's about 50% more efficient than x86 CPUs for performance per watt. Well, that's all great, but we're not there yet because most applications are not available on ARM, and you have to, when you build your images for both web hosting, for running machine learning workloads, you have to build specifically for individual architectures. So whereas ARM is new, and developer machines are not mostly ARM, with the exception of the new M1 laptop from Apple and a couple low cost like Pine 64 Linux laptops, and I believe Lenovo has a new one as well that looks like it's ARM, and the Google Pixel. So with the exception of those, most developers are not using the ARM architecture to build on, meaning that they have to do special things in order to be able to compile for ARM. And many do not. And one of the ones that do not, sadly, is Valve. So Steam CMD, which is the Steam command that is required to run any kind of Steam game like Valheim, it does not run on ARM. Now, compiling the rest of the Valheim stuff on ARM seems to work, so I'm going to put the blame squarely on Valve here, right? Your command does not work for ARM. Please make it. That way I don't have to run. Okay, so back to how did I solve this problem? Well, I had an extra Lenovo laptop that was x86, so I just plugged that in, and so my Node 173 is actually a x86 laptop that's been repurposed to be a Valheim server. So it's running well. It's been running for about a week now with no problems, and I have coworkers on my ex-coworkers on my Valheim server, and yeah, no issues. Thanks AT&T for the fiber. Now for my Minecraft, that's running just fine on my ARM boxes, on the Pis, and hopefully my nephews will be able to connect later today and play a little Minecraft. But that's all from the lab. Well, hopefully y'all like that, and we'll continue doing that segment. I have to thank Jason really for advising me to do a tech segment based on my home lab. I spend a lot of time with the home lab. It's a great way to test stuff. For work I have to get a lot of different things working, and so having a lot of hardware at home is super helpful. By the way, if anybody has any extra hardware, especially these ARM ARM nodes, they're super easy to set up, and with the exception of certain workloads, work great. All right, so for our next segment today, I would like to talk about the books that I've been reading. So far this year, I've done nine books. So if you take a look at which kind of books they've been, for the majority, they've been self-help books. I probably need a lot of help. And if you know me, you already know that. So started out the year with Extreme Ownership, which is really like a kick in the gut. Hey, it's all your responsibility. I mean, it's all my responsibility. And to truly be successful and to be an excellent leader, you have to be able to control your environment. So, I really like the idea of this. And it was a great way to start off the year. You know what? I think this thing would be better if there's a little tiny picture of me. What do y'all think? How about this? All right, that's better. So, and then, I actually skipped ahead to a little bit of sci-fi after that. And I went back to Isaac Asimov. And literally, Isaac Asimov is some of the only fiction that I really like to listen to. So, Stars Like Dust, first in the series from the Galactic Empire. Excellent book. If you're a fan of the Foundation series, of which I'm a huge fan, this is kind of like the beginnings, the prequel to the Foundation. Is this during the time of the Galactic Empire? And if you're a robot series fan like iRobot, this would come after. So it sits right between the Foundation and the Robot series. And this was the first book in the series. It was excellent, great storytelling, a wonderful coming-of-age story about a noble who, finds out his father was killed and, helps start a rebellion against some authoritarianists. Considering this was written, in the 50s, it has aged really well. Unlike the second book in the series, which... The Currents of Space. So this one I just finished, and it took me forever. I had to put it down a few times because I found the beginning of it uninteresting and disconnected. Basically, it talks about the pre-Empire days, and there's a gentleman who's lost his memory, and he's fighting to, figure out who he is. Meanwhile, different forces are chasing him. some controlled by this Trantor who ends up being the home of the Galactic Empire, and some from a local lordship that would like to keep control of this other planet. Very interesting in painting a picture of the greater galactic vision that Asimov had, but it was really tough to get through, and it wasn't really until midway that I started to enjoy it. So if I had not been an Asimov fan, I probably would have dropped it like I did A Promised Land. Sorry, Obama. That was from last year's failure. All right, so other than these two fiction books, it's really been about self-help, right? So I took a trip down Unfuck Your Brain, which was, oh my god, this book is excellent. It's very short, only a 3-hour, 39-minute listen time, or if you, like me, listen at 1.3 or 1.2x, then a little bit shorter than that. Faith G. Harbor, PhD, LPCS, ACS, ACN. I have not been a personal patient of hers, but it's something I would definitely consider, because she cuts through the bull, tells you about, that you're okay, and why you're feeling how you are, and what you can do about making your situation a little bit better. Unfuck Your Brain, excellent book. And then I went a little bit classic, went through Art of War. Always a good thing to read, good thing to listen to. I used to have in a tiny little book form where, each one of the proverbs would be in a separate page, which is excellent to fun through while strategizing, taking over the world and such. This one I just finished, The Compound Effect, like 2 weeks ago. It is an excellent book on consistency. And if you know me, consistency is not one of my strong suits. You have no idea how hard it's been to actually do this podcast on a regular basis on Monday mornings. So for me, having someone repeat Darren Hardy that small changes with consistency can have much more powerful effect than global changes. It's really hard to quit smoking cold turkey, but there's some things that it is a lot better to do right away, whereas most things, incremental changes are best and can add up to a lot. One of the examples he uses is the penny puzzle, right? So if you give a person, would you rather as a person take a penny for a month if it's doubled every day? So first day it's a penny, second day it's 2 pennies, third day it's 4 pennies, and so on, for 31 days, or would you rather take $3 million? And the numbers end up working out to be $10 million for the penny and $3 million is a flat rate, right? But it's not until day 29 that the penny becomes even with the $3 million, and it's not until like day 30 until it overtakes it. So the key here is that the compound effect, and Darren's point is that it's you don't see the results until you see the results. And the book is full of many other excellent examples, and it just it's great to make you think. So I'll go over the coaching habit. And so I give a lot of advice, sometimes unsolicited. This podcast is a perfect example. And I've been suggested that maybe I should give less advice and coach more. And part of that, I was recommended 3 books. And this is the first of that book series, The Coaching Habit. It is an excellent intro to coaching. So where, if you want a quick 7 questions that you can ask instead of answering for someone, this is it. It's 3 hours and 10 minutes runtime. Again, less if you're like me and like to listen to things faster, or if, God forbid, you pick it up and actually read it. But the Coaching Habit, excellent intro into coaching. And it gives you 7 questions to ask. If you're just want to hit the ground running, this is great. Now, if you're more of the kind of person that likes to do your homework and then, analyze that homework and then think about it and then do, then Coaching for Performance by Sir John Whitmore is probably your cup of tea. This is like the Bible of coaching. It talks not just about his version of the 7 questions, but also about all the things around coaching in order for coaching to be successful. What is coaching? How does coaching work in an organization? What learning components are required in an organization for coaching to be effective on a consistent basis? So, excellent book. This one's a lot longer, and so I would say this is like the Bible of coaching. Still excellent. And then, so the last one that I just finished over the weekend is Blink. And so this one's by Malcolm Gladwell. I have, listened to clips from different Malcolm Gladwell books like Outliers. But, this is the first one I finished, and it was excellent. So Blink talks about our secondary way of processing things. It talks about our rapid response memory, and he has got a term for it that I'm completely blanking on. But basically, we have a conscious mind and a subconscious mind, and our subconscious mind has a way of quickly processing information. The first instinct you get when you see someone, you automatically judge them based on, threat criteria and a bunch of other things. And this is done in your subconscious memory. He talks about how this memory is a great asset, however, how it can be used against us and by doing something called priming. And so once I listened to this, all the things in the media, all the things that I was doing really made sense. If you're coaching someone for a fight, you can prime them for negativity or positivity, and that priming will have an effect on them as they're going out there and doing stuff. So you can negatively prime people to be, to have a negative outlook on things, and that will affect their performance. And then you can positively prime people, and this affects everything from whether they consider things equally, whether their personal biases will have more meaning, or whether you unprime them basically from their own biases. So very in-depth book, but excellent. If you're for me, I'm a very intuitive person. I use my secondary, rapid processing brain quite a lot, and usually go with its reaction. And one of the things that Blink talks about is that that's okay. And not only is that okay, that may not be any worse than someone who spent months thinking about a problem. Because what, Malcolm's key takeaway is that our subconscious takes, our subconscious brain, rapid processing brain, takes a slice of an event, a slice of an interaction. And from that slice, that short period, it analyzes that, or we analyze that, all the time. And the answer that it gives you is often not significantly worse than someone who has analyzed the same person, for a longer period of time. We're talking about friends who've known you for years versus someone who has watched a video of you, or doing a specific subject, matter, like a relationship or things like that. And how these slices can be very effective. And so, most people say is you can't know someone, by first meeting them. You can't fully know them, but the reality is that, you can up to a point. And this can be applied for good and for bad, but time slicing is a way of, when applied with scientific methodologies and analyzed, can be very effective in finding certain piece of information out. But it's not random, and you have to plan for it, and you have to work on it. So Blink is very thoughtful read. Will make you think about all those messages that we hear on TV. They do affect us, or on things that we read on the internet. The effect of those is, on our subconscious is a lot greater than we'd like to admit. That's all I've covered in books this year. I use my Audible wish list as as kind of like my book list to read. And right now I got 28 items, everything from the Lean Startup to Dave Ramsey's book on leadership to John Acuff's Quitter. And actually, there's one book that's not on this list that's by John Acuff. It's called Soundtracks, and it's about the things that all the reasons we give ourselves why we can't do stuff. So Soundtrack is on pre-order right now. I've already pre-ordered it, but that's why it doesn't show up on my Audible list. I ordered it directly from him. But John Acuff is the guy who wrote Finish, and so this book was one of my favorites. I read it last year, and it really explained to me that it was okay to listen to audiobooks instead of reading. If I don't like to read, I read manuals all the time, but for pleasure, I like to be a little more passive. And he made me realize that it was okay to be like that and to still get the content. I would not have been able to listen to 20 or read 20 books last year probably, but I was able to listen to 20 audiobooks. This year, I've done 9 so far, and I'm hoping to make it, past 24, and it looks like I'll hit that out of the park, possibly getting up to 36. Not gonna force myself, but we'll see. So we have only about 4 minutes left, and thank you guys for joining me. I don't know how this is gonna look on the other side. Not having a crutch of a guest is really difficult. Luckily, I like to hear myself talk, so we'll power through. Couple things. If you would like to be on the show, I'd like to talk tech with various tech leaders, so please hit me up. Next week, I'm going to be joined by my friend Adon, and we're going to fight about EFT and cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin. It should be an excellent conversation. Hopefully, we won't revert to name calling, but we'll see how it goes. And if you'd like to keep up with us, we have our YouTube channel, Twitch stream. We now are on Facebook, Twitch, and by we I mean me. Really, it's just one man show. And LinkedIn. So I'm thinking about dropping the Twitch stream and going directly to YouTube. My audience is really the LinkedIn audience, and we're not much for Twitch, it seems. So I would like to hear your feedback. Please comment. Let me know what you think. I am moving to Alabama back to Birmingham in about a month and a half, or really about 2 months, and we're going to do a DevOps Days Birmingham next spring. Really looking forward to that, and I hope those of you that are local to Birmingham will come help us out and come join us. Should be a great conference. All right, I think we are done for the day. I hope y'all have an excellent week. You know what? I will leave you guys with a book. I left y'all with a lot of books, but I will leave you with the book that's next on my reading list, and that's Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins, and he's one of the military guys that that did the hard work, and so I'm excited to listen to his book and see how it goes, and hopefully I'll be able to tell you more about it in a couple weeks. Thank you. Have an awesome week. Mikhail out.